Hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Gabrielle?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so we're just gonna wait a few minutes for more people to join. Okay. Sorry, my internet is like pretty bad right now because it's storming outside.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so loud. Outside.
Okay, so I think we can just start now. This is gonna be like on our Instagram, so it's gonna be recorded.
Oh, cool.
So hi and welcome to our Activated Thursday series, where every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, we have IG live conversations with youth and adults about how to be effective activists. So my name is Vanessa. I'm a sophomore at the University of Maryland, and I'm co-chair on the Youth Activism Project's board of directors. And today I'm so excited to welcome Gabrielle.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an incoming junior at Columbia University. And I'm in Rockville, Maryland.
Oh, you're in Rockville?
Yeah.
I'm in Silver Spring.
Oh, cool.
So Gabrielle, you're the founder of DC Teens Action, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so could you give a little background on yourself? Maybe like you already said where you're from, but like how old you are, maybe a few of your interests.
sure. So I'm 20 years old. I'm interested in civic engagement, music, um, uh, social action, just like various issues that are, I guess, like affecting the communities that I'm a part of as a member of the LGBTQ community, um,
Hmm.
as a member, like as a Latina, as a Jewish person. So just that's something that really interests. It's like a part of um, my communities, but activism groups
Hmm.
all throughout, even like several within my school alone, but like so many in the county and in other counties. And I knew about a lot of them because like I was in this youth group and I had friends at different schools and in different counties around the DC area. But a lot of them were like doing their own protests and doing their own fundraisers and all of these different things, but like didn't connect with each other or know about each other, at least at that point. And so I kind of started
Hmm.
using Teens Action with the purpose of bringing together these groups from different schools and different communities, so that when these groups have a common goal, they can either work towards it together or
Hmm. Yeah, so do you have anyone like working with you or is it just you like
oh, so at first it was me, like back when I started it.
hmm.
Sorry, they said they can't hear. Can they not hear me, or can you not hear? Who can't
Can
you
you
hear?
hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear. It's just someone wrote in the comments that they can't
Oh
hear one
yeah,
of us.
yeah, I can see.
But
Mm, I'm not sure.
yeah. So it started out. I started the page, and then very shortly after, I joined forces with a few friends from my school,
Hmm.
and we were all running it together. And very shortly after forming the page, we used the page for this project where we housed around 350 students from around the country for the March for Our Lives weekend. And so that was kind of like how we built our team. And then, over the past 2 years, people graduated and went away. But I guess like this past year, we've really grown a lot in terms of our team. Because we have, I guess like I'm the founder and the lead
Hmm.
organizer, but we have a social media team, a partnerships and outreach team, a programming team, and an operations team. And each of those like has a lead member and then several members within the teams. So we do a lot of programming and also like keeping up with our online content and everything. So we've definitely grown a lot now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So like you basically found a way to connect all these different groups from across the DMV, like promoting youth civic engagement. I think that's really great because sometimes there's like one group in like DC or one group in Maryland that are kind of like doing the same thing or like planning at the same event, and like they can just end up having it together and it really connects them, and
Yeah.
like yeah. I like went through your Instagram and I noticed that like the DCTA's Instagram, and I noticed that a big part of what you guys like post about is upcoming protests, from like Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter protests to protests against gun violence. So can you talk a little bit about like why for you think it's important that young people get involved in calls to change, especially like in the form of protests?
Absolutely. So I think, for example, within the Black Lives Matter movement, there are just so many issues that, these issues affect everyone regardless of age, so we need to include young voices, but some issues specifically affect students and young people. So for example, like within the Black Lives Matter movement, there a lot of protests focus on getting police out of schools, and funding social workers and school psychologists within schools, all with the goal of ending the school to prison pipeline, or at least mitigating it. And that's an issue where students should be at the forefront, because we're advocating for students for better school environments, and for better opportunities, regardless of what school you go to. So in a situation like that, it really should be the students who are leading the way, in my opinion, who are the only ones who really have that specific experience that they can share. And I think like with a lot of other issues as well, like when you think about climate change, we're kind of the first generation to feel the immediate effects of the climate change.
Yeah.
Like when you think like in DC, for example, the asthma rates among youth are skyrocketing because of the air pollution. In many other cities, it's the same situation. And, it's like, oh, we have so many years to stop climate change, but like the effects of pollution and climate change are really already reaching us now. And I guess, we are going to be the generation who has to face the even worse effects of that as we're growing up. So,
Yeah.
we really should be a big part of stopping or fighting to mitigate climate change right now.
Yeah, I think it's really great that you bring that up. Also, like the school to prison pipeline, like in some schools, there are more police officers or security guards than there are like guidance counselors,
Yeah.
things like that. So sometimes it's just like important to recognize that these are issues that like really affect the youth, and that it's really great that like DCTA is like encouraging young people to go to protests and to do things like that. I'm just curious, like, have you seen a change in engagement with DCTA in light of the recent increase in Black Lives Matter protests across the country? Like more people engaging with DCTA?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot more people engaging. I think the first part of that is just the fact that we've had so many more protests and fundraisers and other things to post about. And, the more information that we're sharing about different communities, the more it kind of draws people in. But also because like, it's like an issue that gets people really, like it makes people want to be involved. It makes people want to do something about it, because it's like, what else are they supposed to do with all of like the sadness and anger and everything that like it's causing. So a lot of people have joined DC Teens Action because they've come to a point, or they've like a big part of the surge in online activism is because of the coronavirus, because like a lot of students and teenagers and everyone like would have stuff to do this summer, or they would have stuff to do even right now as school is starting, like clubs and sports and everything, and all of that is kind of on a halt. And it's like highlighting the issues that are before us that we kind of always had distracted. When it forces us to be online, it forces us to, in a way, like to be more informed about the things that are online and like to connect with each other online, which is like coronavirus is absolutely horrible, no doubt, but
Hmm.
it's kind of like the way that it has caused us to be absent from the things that we would be doing has like led to more people getting involved in online activism.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a surge of like online activism and like myself, I've just been noticing that I like read more things online now and I'm like way more informed than I was before just because like everything is online now too. You mentioned fundraisers. So as DCTA, like what do you guys fundraise for? Like what are your goals with that? And do you
Yeah.
guys have any upcoming events or like plans on fundraising?
But when I mentioned fundraisers, I mean, we've been posting fundraisers from different organizations around the DC area, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
mutual aid organization or a protest organization that's looking for supplies to make signs and things like that. But we haven't done any of our own fundraisers yet because honestly, at the moment we don't really have much to fundraise for since almost everything that we do is based online. Like we did like a paint and protest event where we did a little bit of fundraising for materials for that, but mostly we've just been sharing these other groups that are in really urgent need of funds for just a
Mm-hmm.
whole variety of different things. But yeah, we do have some other events that we're working on planning, and we actually have a planning meeting at like 5:30 right after this. So
Oh, really?
we're planning, yeah, we're planning different programs, educational programs and advocacy programs, all currently virtual for the time being, but we're not planning any fundraisers at the
Mhm.
moment.
I'm curious, like, is there any moment or any activity that you've like done through DCTA that like stands out to you or like through your career as an activist?
Hmm. Um, I guess that would be two. So like the first project with DCTA, which is like what I mean, like it was the beginning and it like kind of led into everything that we are now. It was our March for Our Lives like housing
Hmm.
project. And I think like a really so what we put together houses of students who live in the DC area for students from around the country to stay there. Um, it was cool that we got 350 extra students to go to the march, but afterwards like a lot of the students personally contacted
Oh,
us
wow.
and explained like the impact that it had on them, that
Hmm.
like they
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's great. So you guys basically like trained people to like like how to like start their own protests, how to like fight for a cause that they believe in, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that, and then we had like a Q&A section at the end and everything. And like we went through all sorts of types of protests, sit-ins and marches and rallies, and using civil disobedience versus I guess like getting a permit. Just there were, I don't even know how we fit it all into, actually we didn't, we ran overtime. But like how we fit it all into an hour and a half, because like we covered so much and there were so many questions and answers. I probably was just talking way too fast when I did the presentation on that one. But yeah, I think it was really good because, like as a page, I guess DC Teens Action is known for posting protests, and we've noticed that like the momentum is dying down a little bit, and we can't let that happen. And so,
Yeah.
we could have held a protest and spent the same amount of time and planning and everything, but in doing like I guess the workshop that we did, it's kind of catalyzing like the potential for each attendee to start their own or to work together, which I think in a way has a bigger impact than if we ourselves had just tried to plan one protest at that time.
Hmm. Yeah. You said that you go to Columbia, right?
Yeah, I'm actually starting there as a junior this year. I went to Montgomery College for the past 2 years.
Oh, really? I was gonna say, like, have you done anything with them, like, in terms of like activism or like anything related to this?
Oh, I mean, well, I'm a human rights major, so that's kind of like an
Hmm.
activism related studies.
Yeah.
But I actually don't even start classes until next Tuesday. So this is like my orientation week.
Hmm.
But yeah, I haven't done anything with them so far because I have been here at MC.
Yeah. What's the most significant thing you feel like you've learned from like creating DC Teens Action and like watching it grow over the years?
Hmm, that's really hard. The most significant thing I think I've learned, um, just I don't know, like kind of consistent with like what the purpose of DC Teens Action was. It was just like through working with it, it has been like I guess like emphasized to me, if that makes sense. Um, but just like the power of bringing together people from the different communities, like in the same region,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Because like when we were talking about how some schools have more police officers than they do guidance counselors,
Hmm.
like that's true for my friend who lives 15 minutes away, literally just 15 minutes. But for me at Walter Johnson, that was absolutely not the case. um
Yeah.
it's just like the difference, even within one county or within DC, like the difference between two schools that are just you know even like 5 or 10 minutes from each other can be immense, just based on exactly where it is, based on the funding it receives, and you know the administration. So I think like just like that is one example. Like I think it's really powerful to
Yeah.
connect with the people around us who aren't a part of our like direct community, because it helps us kind of see like where the inequities are, and what we can do, like how we can use one school as an example for solutions in another school, or how we can use one neighborhood as an example for finding like community safety solutions in another neighborhood, when
Yeah.
we're like all right here, but so disconnected for the most part.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, I have one last question since I know you have to go at 5:30. So do you have any advice for any young people who are like thinking about advocating for something or who are like thinking about creating their own organization like you did?
Yeah.
But they don't really know where to start or it seems kind of like daunting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess just for young people who don't know where to start in general,
Hmm.
find an organization, a student group, a club, anything that you think is at least like mostly in line with your beliefs or with what you want to achieve, because it's so much easier, to start a campaign, to run an event, whatever it is that you want to do, when you have a group of people working with you.
Yeah.
And some of those people might already have resources for doing so, fundraise, etc. So really like finding your group, or multiple groups, is definitely the best way to start. For me, like, it was my youth group when I was in like 8th grade through high school, and that was kind of like the group where, you know, I didn't just start my own group. Like, I joined this group of students who were already leaders, and that's kind of where I learned many of my leadership skills and how to organize an event and things like that. And then, you know, once I had been through that for a while, I guess I was ready to start my own initiative with DC Teens Action.
Mhm.
But for those who want to start a group, I highly recommend getting in contact with Youth Activism Project. They, in coordination with YCC, just ran this amazing 6-week series on how to run your own advocacy group or civic engagement group, and how to organize events, how to recruit members. So I think they're a really great resource. And also, if you're in the DC area, I highly recommend getting involved with DC Teens Action. You can message me, or you can message us at DC Teens Action. And we can send you the link to join. And, you know, if you're not looking to like start a whole organization, but maybe you have an event you really want to do, you have a flyer that you really want to get out there, or just, you know, whatever it is, we can absolutely support you in doing so through DC Teens Action. You know, through our base of members and through our followers on our page and everything. We just, you know, want to support local student-led initiatives.
Okay, that's great advice. Thank you. So thank you so much, Gabrielle, for sharing the incredible things you guys have been doing. I really love talking to you. Do you have any like last thoughts or anything else to plug?
Any last thoughts? I guess just well, if anyone wants to join the meeting that we're about to have, it's an open meeting. It's in response to the murder of Dion K yesterday in DC. And Dion was a teenager in DC, so like as DC Teens Action, we think it's really important to you know, get involved with this as soon as possible, and figure out, you know, what the best way that we can help the situation and help the community is. So if you're free right now, I guess just send me a DM and I can invite you to the meeting. If you just want to learn more about what happened, or need a space to talk to other people about it, or want to get involved in organizing around it. Yeah, I guess that's my final thought. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific for another interview. Okay,
Cool.
thank you. Bye, Gabriella.